So continuing from where we left off, I was showing you how to prepare your art and use Spritesheet Packer, and now we can load it into MeoMotion. So click on your Spritesheet and begin by setting the pivots for the character. If you're having trouble seeing something, if it's very small, you can do this and get very precise pivot placement. Unclick Magnify. Let's put this in the hip. This is so when you're done, click Done. You can use Pick Part here if you need to place something. So say you have two objects that are really close together and you're having trouble picking the object you want to select. You can use Pick Part, and then it'll only select the object you want to work on. And you click Done when you're finished with it. I'm going to hit Shift down to move the whites of the eyes all the way back. I'm going to move this up with Shift up. Perhaps I'm going to stretch the body a little bit more. Shift, right click and drag does a uniform scale, and just right click and drag you can scale your objects. And we're going to move the left leg here. Make it a little bit bigger with a right click and drag. Okay, so the reason I'm trying to put it fairly far up inside him is because when it rotates, I'm using the middle mouse wheel to rotate, different parts of it won't pop out from behind it. So I'm going to hit Shift down, Shift down. I'm going to place the ears. Shift down. The nice thing about this process too is that if you weren't necessarily happy with the way it was arranged in your favorite art program, Photoshop or GIMP or whatever you're using, you can rescale, stretch, distort, to reposition your objects. Add the eyes. Shift up to pull this forward, then I'll hit down once on the arrows, Shift down to move it all the way back. Tail. Shift down to move it to the back. And these mouths. Head pieces, I'm going to use swapping for these. Now to make this a little bit easier for setting up associations, I'm going to move the whites of the eye using Pick Part out to here. And I'm done, and then I'm going to use Bones Editor. I'm going to pick what I want my root bone to be, which is going to be at the hips here. And the head. And the head's going to be attached to the whites of the eye. I'm going to right click. Also want the head to be associated with these parts of the eye. Make sure you got the correct green rectangle selected. And then also want to associate the head with the ears. Let's add these are dead end bones. These blue ones just show that yes, indeed, I already did work on this. They're just for show, they don't actually do anything. All these things here basically are indicators showing this is associated with this. So we're going to make an association between the body and the arms. And we're going to do one for the tail, one for this leg, one that goes to the thigh, and then to the knee. Okay, so I have all my associations set up, except I should probably associate these, and I'm right clicking to end. So now these are associated with the head. When the head moves, these will move with it. but we should move these into position. So this will be here. I'm going to shift up to place this, and I'm going to place it here. And shift up to place this one. It'll be placed approximately in the middle of the other one. And then once you're done or satisfied with the setup, you can hit Animator. First thing we need to do is we need to hide some of these objects because we're not using them at the moment. So we're going to go Hide Show. What this does is it makes the alpha transparency for these pieces, sets them to 0 so they're not visible. And it knows in your game, the MeoMotion player, it knows that if the alpha is low enough, it just won't calculate for it or show it. Removing it from the scene. First of all, I want to set my initial pose. So this is going to be his initial pose, and I'm going to add the keyframe. Always remember to click Add Keyframe after you set a pose for any keyframe, otherwise when you scrub the animation timeline or hit play, you'll lose whatever it was that you were adjusting. So just to be on the safe side, anytime you make any kind of adjustment, just click Add Keyframe. And I'm going to shift, right click on this key, drag it to the middle, and I just made a copy of all those keyframes to here. If you wanted to do a copy of just one keyframe, you'd pick a part that you wanted to copy it for, and then you'd shift, right click, and drag to copy just that keyframe for that one item. So I'm done with that. I don't actually recommend using set parent here. It's better to do that in the Bones editor, because if you set the parent in the middle of doing some kind of animations, you can kind of mess up the offsets. So unless you're just starting in here, I don't recommend actually using this. But you'll want to use pick apart a lot when you got a bunch of stuff that's all close together like this. So first we're going to use pick part, pick the head, go to the keyframe we want to modify. So go here, hover over it, you hold M, and you select anywhere in the screen frame, it will allow you to move it. Normally if I were to grab here and move, it would actually rotate, but that's what hold M is useful for. As you can see here in help, it shows hold M, Alt P to reset position, Alt R to reset rotation, Alt S to reset size, and Shift R to scale evenly, or Shift right click, Alt V or the middle mouse click to do vertex animation. So let's do that. Let's say at this keyframe his leg is up and his leg is bent. As you can see, there's some shearing going on here. So I'm going to middle click and we'll do some distortion. Done. And then we'll match up the distortion on the other object, or the other part. Just try to make it look good. Hit done. That looks pretty good. So now he's tapping his foot and bobbing his head. Let's make him breathe too. This is obviously not a professional animation tutorial. I'm just kind of showing you how to use a lot of the key features in various ways. One of the things you could do though for creating a good animation is to go import background and grab a reference, and then once you've loaded your reference you can move it around on the canvas. You can hold right click, you can flip it backwards if the character is facing the other way, and move your reference onto the scene, and say that I want to match up my animation with the middle character. I can actually sort of grab this, and then I can set his pose to match this, or I could put it in front of him, which would be probably a bit easier, and just kind of use it as a guide as to where each of these parts should be rotated to create this frame, the middle frame of animation. You want to make your first one, your middle one, and your last one, and then the in-between ones. Although, of course, the last one's going to match the first one, and since it loops, you don't really need to do the last one. Since we don't need the background, though, we're going to hit Remove Background. Another useful tool in here is Key Blend for one part. Let's say we made a key where this ear goes down to here. We want it to blend slowly from this key here to this key here, and that was what we intended, but because this keyframe's here, it will blend from where it was in that keyframe, which wasn't what we wanted. So how do I fix that? Easy. Just go Tools, Key Blend for part, click the ear, click the first keyframe, and the keyframe you want to blend to. And now it'll blend smoothly between the two frames, just for that part. Now let's say we wanted to change his facial expressions during mid-animation. I'm going to set up some keyframes for some facial expression changes. What I would do is I'd hit Pick Part, or no, not Pick Part, hit Part Swap. Select the head, and I want to swap it to this because I'm going to blink, and then go to the next key, hit Part Swap. I want to swap this part for this part. Go to the next key. So then what else we can do? We want to change the mouth expressions here, and we want it to blend with fade in and fade out. So I'm going to just create some keys here. So what I'm going to do is go to this keyframe here. I want to pick the part I want to fade in. And what I could do is hold click on this part and hold the plus key to fade it in completely. Then hit key, go to the next frame. It's already faded out because it was set to fade it out before when we set that key. Another way we can do this, so we're done with that isolated part. We're going to pick a part to isolate. We're going to pick the open mouth one. And another way to quickly fade it in without having to hold click on it and hit plus, or hold down plus or minus, we're going to hit Hide Show, and we're going to say I want the mouth totally shown at this key. Hit plus, and it should fade between the two. And I'm going to add another keyframe here. So we're done with that. Here we want to fade in the other one again. So we're going to hit Hide Show. We're going to say I want to see this one. Hit key. Now it should blend between all of them. And you'll notice that even though it's using some fairly choppy animation there, because of the alpha blending, when you run it at normal speed, it actually creates the illusion that you have smoother animation than you really do. Let's make him breathe. I'm going to pick the head. I'm going to move his head up a bit and key it, and then we'll pick the body. So we're done with that. And I'm going to right click and middle click, and we're going to puff out his chest. Pull this in a bit, puff this out. Hit done when you're done, or reset to reset it. Keep that keyframe. And you'll notice that this animation is really abrupt, and that's not really what we wanted. So that's easy to fix. All you do is hit Tools, Key Blend for one part, just the chest, And I want to blend from here to here. And then I want to do it again. Tools, key for one part, for here to here. So now the chest blends nicely, but the head doesn't. So I do the same thing. Tools, key blend for one part, and want to do the head from here to here. And then again for the head from here, here to here. And now it blends nice and smooth. But his arms aren't moving, which looks kind of ridiculous. So let's fix that. I mean, all of this animation is going to look ridiculous because I'm not exactly trying to make something professional here. This is just for demonstration, like I said. So I'm going to key this. And let's key this one here. Now I probably should have done these first so I don't have to do the animation blending. But that's okay, because it's easy enough to do. So I'll do the tail first, I guess. From here to here. So now he's doing some kind of weird breathing tap dance ritual. Maybe he's trying to get it to rain or something. Let's make his ear wobble a bit. Yes, might go down at this frame. And then maybe even up at 6. Because of the way the inertia is working. Oops. I don't know, I'm kind of being random here too in how I'm doing this. Just want to pick that part. And I want to shift, right click, drag to here. Done. So I added a strange random wobble to his ear, just to kind of show that it can be done. I don't know why you'd want his ear to pulsate and wobble around like that, but just to give you an idea of how to use the tools. Oh, by the way, you can change the speed of the animation. You can change the overall transparency of the whole character. Eventually I might add color blending and other such things. Make sure to name your animation so that you can reference it in your game. This one's going to be called OK. And then we're going to go to animation 1 and start an initial keyframe here. And in your following animations, you want to make sure you have at least 2 keyframes, otherwise it won't remember that animation. Another feature is you can turn snap off if you want to get really precise in here. Exact frames, and you can see the exact frames right here. If you're adding like hand-drawn animations with very exact frames at very small increments, you could technically do that. Or if you need to delete a key that you accidentally stuck right in the middle, like if you had play on, for example, and you stopped it at some random key and you keyed it there and you didn't want that there, you could hit remove key. But if you had moved it since then you'd want to turn snap off so you get precisely to that key and remove it. But I recommend leaving snap on all the time. Most of the time you don't have to worry about that. If you're having trouble finding stuff, like if you're working on something really small and like pixel for pixel you need to grab parts and move them and stuff, you can use this magnify tool here. Oops. Let's say I wanted to scale the leg. You'll notice that if I right click and scale, the parent is not affecting the child, which is, if you have children, lots of times you want them to behave in accordance to the parent. So I'm going to turn on this scale children here and hold right click, and you'll notice that everything that follows scales in accordance to how it should. I'm going to turn it off now. You can also just right-click on a key if you need to move it and hold down and let go, and it'll just move it over to a new spot if you weren't happy with where it was. Save it, and then go to Export. When you finish your character's animations and you want to export it into your game, you click Export TXT. You select a place in your game where the executable is going to be located, and you type in the name of the animation export, and then you hit Save. So let's say you've done a totally new character and you want to combine all of his sprite sheet images onto the other sprite sheet, so it's all one big giant sprite sheet. It will try to pack everything onto one sprite sheet. You just want to make sure that it's not going to go past 4096 by 4096. It will add all of the animations into a single TXT. The way to do that is to hit File, Export, Add projects to one PNG and one TXT. Like I said, it's going to combine all your images from all of your characters into that one you made before as a combo sheet. It'll combine all the images together. It'll know where all the rectangles are for all the parts, and it'll add all of your animation projects together into one TXT export. In your game engine, the Meow player is able to look up, and there is source code for that, so you can see how it works. You can assign a character based on the original character sheet name, so whatever you save this project as, so say I save it as, cider sheet or something like that. Whatever you originally saved this character as, it will be able to remember, okay, this is you want to refer to the cider sheet, which is sort of a subsheet of the combined animation sheet. You might have a bunch of different characters that all have the idle animation, the run animation, the walk animation. It'll use what sheet is associated with that character in conjunction with the name that you assigned to the animation to know exactly which animation to use. Each of your characters can have any number of animations. Whatever speed you set this to play at when you export it is the speed that it will play in your game. So you want to make sure you set the speed back to where you want it. In your game, you can actually go into the character's properties, and you can set the property for the player's original offset. So that way you can line up the animations differently. Like for example, if you had an animation where the character's ducking, so to offset that animation, you can set the properties so that he's offset down lower and he's still touching the ground. As you can see in this, even though it's only using linear interpolation, with the vertex distortions, you can create some very smooth looking blended animations without even using very many keyframes. Like here, I've only used a few keyframes. If you wanted to make it a little smoother, you could add an extra keyframe, a couple extra keyframes around the part that you want to smoothen out even more, and blend the animation a little more smoothly that way. Eventually, if this project gets enough support, I may add parametric blending options as well. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.